touch the monitor on the wall.
Okay, so the broadcast is live currently.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to DBHG Talk, or our live podcast.
Detroit Business Hub Group Director Nancy O'Neill works with her team of experts. Listen to conversations with business professionals to discover the latest business innovations, insights, and trends. Find out what's hot and what's not in today's business market.
Hi, Fran. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the DBHG podcast. I'm so happy to have you as a guest. So first, when we first started out, I was actually your first show for the year, and now you are helping me with my first podcast, and we'll see how this goes.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Fran, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Francyne Walker. I am the host of Life and Style with Francyne, soon to be the Francyne Walker Show, coming in March, because I don't want to limit myself. So I'm excited about that. But I have a degree in journalism, a bachelor's degree in journalism from Wayne State, as well as a master's degree in communications. I worked in the healthcare insurance industry for 25 years, left corporate America, did all kinds of things in between time, in the meantime, and here I am doing consultant work, as well as building my platform for Life and Style with Francyne, soon to be the Francyne Walker Show.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, Francyne. Let's see. Hold on one second, Francyne. Okay, so Francyne, I'm watching us live on YouTube. I actually do not see you here.
As I already said, yeah.
So I'm going to, my face is all, let me see if I'm showing up on the other YouTube screen. Nope. I think I can hear your audio though.
So if I'm not on screen, I can kind of sit back then and not, because I'm not showing, so I don't have to face the screen. I can kind of just, it's kind of like a podcast then, an audio cast. Since it's not.
Yeah, we could just hear your audio, but I was trying to see if there was a way that I could get you on the screen.
No,
if you just want us to hear your audio, that's fine.
I can't do it on my end, so that's okay. We can make it work as this goes on. We can do this like this.
Oh, okay. Because I at least want to have your photo on, like not even your photos coming up while you're talking. So I at least wanted to be able to add that.
Okay.
Oh, I did something. All right, so we can see you now, Francyne. I don't know, I hit a button. Okay, we can see you, you're good. Cool. All right, so we are on live once again with Francyne Walker. She is now in the camera. I'm so excited. Francyne knows that I'm working on the technology aspect of this, and you were instrumental in helping me get started. So we definitely wanted to see your beautiful face on the camera. I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? Like, we did a practice running everything. We weren't running into these kind of issues. So thank you so much. Our videographer is not with us today, so he kind of left me hanging. So I'm learning how to do all of this stuff on my own for the first time. Okay, So Francine, go ahead and share your why story with us. Tell us how you got started in the business.
In which business? I'm confused.
Okay, so you are a journalist. So tell us how you got started with your journalism career. I'm just going through the questions that I had already sent you.
Okay, when you say business, because I'm no longer. So what's my why? Well, first of all, I'm a storyteller. I'm a writer, and I'm pretty good at it. So when it comes to my why, I declare journalism as a major almost right after I graduated. However, I didn't complete my degree until 20 years later. And then obviously, at that point, I realized, oh, I can do this. And so that was my goal, to leave corporate America, become a reporter. And then my mom became ill. And so while I was going through that, being her caregiver, I started working on my master's degree in communications. However, with journalism, I was more interested in telling stories that were empowering and inspirational and encouraging versus the ones that lead or bleed, So with that, that's how I got into journalism. But I think I've always been a writer. I've always been able to, that's what I did when I worked in corporate America. I was an analyst, marketing analyst with Blue Cross. So, and I endured a lot of writing. I won't say endured, but so that's how I got into it. So 2006, did all kinds of different things, 2000 up until 2000 now, behind, in front of the screen. And even though I've done print journalism, was an editor for an online magazine, was a journalist expert for My Man on TV One. I've always, just had a knack for what I do. So I think that's how. So that's why I do what I do, because I love it.
Okay, great. All right. So I know that you wrote a book. Tell us what inspired you to write the book, and tell us what the book is about.
Which I didn't bring. I don't have it. It's called Fit and Fat for Life. It is on Amazon. It's 50 motivational tips to help you get fit and be fabulous for life. And I wrote the book after I lost 50 pounds. And honestly, what is so funny about the book is I wrote it in the airport after I was stuck. I missed a plane, and my plane got delayed a couple of times. And so I was in an airport for about 4 hours, and I just started writing the book after someone said, how are you going to keep the weight off? And I said, I'm going to tell you. So I devised 50 tips to tell people how to keep the weight off. And so that was after I lost 60 pounds. And so it is on Amazon, and it's available for me. But it was just an inspiration to me, and kind of like a pact for myself to stay motivated and stay fit and fat for life. And I'm a writer, so.
Okay, great. Multi-talented. All right, well, what is your why for motivating other people? And have you ever thought of becoming a motivational coach?
My why for motivating other people is, why not?
I love that.
And because we have so many social media is replete with people telling us we're not enough. Mm-hmm. I simply want to be that person that tells you you are. And motivational coach, not so much I don't think I want to be a coach in so much as I want to build a practice. I think I really want to motivate people by living a life that makes me happy. And it's going to look different for everybody. What makes me happy might not make you happy, but you should be motivated to do what makes you happy. And that's all I'm simply trying to say by living my life. You know, Paul says, you will know me by by the letter of my life, or the epistle of my life. If we're talking about scripture. So that's really how I want to motivate. I don't necessarily want to have people that I coach and, you know, build a business. I just want to motivate you by what I do and the words I speak, you know, like having interviews like this, where you're motivated by what you just heard. But you don't have to call me up and, you know, set up a session and all of that. I mean, and I used to actually do personal training at one point in time, and I loved it. Mm-hmm. But it's not necessarily, it's like we can be so good at so many different things, but sometimes it's like, what's really pulling at you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so Ellis Liddell once said, as a business owner, I've always heard, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. What does that quote mean to you?
I've heard that quote too. And I think that's partly true. Mm-hmm. Because there is work.
Amen to that.
There is work. You know what I mean, Nancy?
Yes.
There is work, but you can love what you do, but it requires a certain amount of discipline and application to get to do what we love. So
I agree.
It is work to some degree. Now, the part so we pay a price with the work so that we can do what we love. You know,
right.
We started here where you are building your platform because you believe in the Detroit Business Hub Group. You know, that's
right.
So now you want to take it to another level by building the platform out. You may love the group, but there's work that has to be done, right? So it's the same way. I think it's true. Yes, doing what you love does not feel like work, but there's all those other little moving parts that are needful to make it work. So yeah, I believe that, but I believe it's partly true where there's certain things like I love being on camera. I love interviewing people. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily like being interviewed. And it's not so much like why, because you don't feel comfortable. It's just talking about myself. You know what I mean? But I'm happy to do that. But at the same time, there's things that have to be done. I have to pull myself together. I have to schedule the interview, just as you had to do. You know, we had so many things we had to work through as far as to make this happen. So it's like, oh, I would love for somebody to book all my guests for me. And I just show up. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
But that is part of the work, just the process.
Yes, and I think once you've been doing it for a while and you get seasoned and more experience and, you know, you build up your following, you can begin to enjoy the fruits of your labor, but you do have to put the work in the beginning. So.
Yeah, but you know what? The labor part, that is the labor. Now, the fun part is what I do. It's the meeting new people, hearing their story, allowing their story to be told through me. You know, that is, so the fruits of my labor are already manifested. I think it's just allowing it to grow. You know what I mean? So the fruits to continue to grow, like the seeds are planted by way of, okay, today is your first seed. Congratulations. This is your first seed, and it's going to just continue to grow.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, I appreciate hearing that from a seasoned professional, whereas this technology part for me,
it's okay.
It's a growing pain and learning process.
Yes, but that was your motivation. See how I motivated you? For free.
Well, as they say, practice makes perfect. And I just don't like, you know, it's like technology, they say, is a beautiful thing as long as it works. And I'm like, it was working. I
Are
don't really know
we
what's
good?
going on here.
I still see it. Are we good on this end, on your end?
Yes, everything's good now.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then once you figure out what you weren't doing, you're like, oh, that was it. I just had to hit one button. Like, oh,
And
that
you
was
can
easy.
edit that out, honestly. Yeah. So, yeah. This is cool. I mean, it's just you're safe here.
Oh, thank you. All right. So next question. Tell us about your experience working as an insurance agent. We found out from a discussion that we recently had that you were actually a former health insurance agent. And when did you decide that was no longer the career for you?
Okay. That's a good question because I did not sell health insurance. I sold final expense, burial
Like final death expense. Okay.
Basically, and it was a certain demographic that we were going after.
Mm-hmm.
I did it as a with the decision in mind to supplement my income or create a different stream. And
Gotcha.
I what was appealing about it was the flexibility in hours. Like I could set my own hours.
Mm-hmm.
However, you do have to be self-motivated.
Right.
When you
Burial
have
insurance.
that flexibility. What I did not like about it, and I did it maybe for about, went through the training. So that was some time. That was maybe, I don't know, maybe a month of training, going through all the different books and then take the exams. I had to take the exams to pass and all of that. But so I did it for like maybe 4 months. It was a very short period of time because I hated it. I hated it. And, I was just like, how they say babies, when they don't like something, they drop it. Well, I was a baby and I was like, I don't want this. I don't want to do this. And fortunately, I was in a position where I could say that because I did not like it. I did not like going door to door, buying leads. And that's really, that's the truth. I don't sugarcoat it. Like it was not for me. You know what I mean? But there were people that looked like me rocking and rolling. It was some sisters that was doing it, right? And they were going to houses and able to get those premiums and whatnot. It just wasn't for me. And
here's the thing about sales. They say like you can come in, you're going to make all this money, and they sell a very nice, attractive package, right? So you can work your own hours, and there's all this flexibility, and we're going to give you these leads. But when you actually get in the trenches, you find out that most people who make money, they're working like 60 hours a week or more. So the whole thing about like flexible hours really goes out the window at that point. Yeah. That's why so many sales people are single. They don't really have time to have a
flexible
family.
Hours were fine, but I lived in Farmington Hills, and when you put me on in Dexter, and I was my territory or my leads were off Dexter, and I'm sorry, it was a culture shock for me. So it was less about. I was not disillusioned. It was like, no. Because here's the thing. I'm very personable. I'm not afraid to speak up. You put me on a stage, boom. I connect with people naturally. But in that environment, I was scared. One time I took my boyfriend with me and didn't just let him be my trainee. I just was telling, I'm training him. Because I didn't feel safe. So it was less about it was just not for me. You know what I mean? But that contributed to it. It was the area I was in. And I just didn't feel comfortable, and I didn't like it. I went into a couple places, lost my voice because they smoked. And I said, I don't know. I like smoking. But the environment was so smoky without you in it that I said, I won't do this. So
I understand. I mean, the thing is, it's like if you know that the career is not for you, it's better to get out of it as soon as you can versus staying in it and trying to make it work. Like we keep on making these analogies to relationships, but it's like if you know you're in a bad relationship, I'm not saying marriage, I say relationship. You know it's not working. It's like, why stick around? You need to like be honest with yourself and maybe talk to your partner and be like, hey, this isn't working. Like we either have to pivot and make adjustments or we need to move on. So
and I've done that.
those are the two options.
I've done that. And it's like, can we be friends? It's like, no, you're not even a good boyfriend. I don't want to be your friend. Well, yes, I'm known to do that. So it's like I don't believe in doing anything I don't want to do at this point in my life. And COVID has taught us that life is just precious. 500,000, and not to turn this into anything sad or negative, but it's perspective. And we didn't lose a year, we survived a year.
Right.
And so I be doggone if I'm going to survive a year,
right,
and do things I don't want to do and suffer through things I don't want to suffer through. Jobs, relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, and wife. I'm neither at this point. I am single. And someone was telling me, oh, you're enjoying your singleness. It's like, yeah.
That's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to enjoy being single.
Like today, it's like, I'm not adulting today. This is the adulting I'm doing today, talking to you. You know what I mean? I said, I'm not going to adult today. I said, when I get done talking to you, I'm going to have a great dinner and a movie and reward myself. But yeah, you should not suffer through anything, not even a job. I did that for several years when I worked in corporate America until I finally had to say enough. So I understand. I've been there, staying in a job for the sake of being able to support myself and my son. So at this age, I'm not saying don't do anything, but find what it is.
Right. And honestly, like any job that you take or any business that you run, you're probably going to have 1 to 2 things that you don't like. That comes with every single job, even if you have your dream job. Okay.
Well, that's
so
what
those are either things you can delegate, you can give it to somebody else to do, or you can just live with the fact, hey, I love this job. These 1 or 2 things I really don't like about it, but I can live with it. But when you have like a list of 10 things that you don't like about your job and you like 2 things at your job, then we're running into some serious problems.
Right. Well, that's why when you asked me about the quote that Ellis Liddell had borrowed, that was my point. It's like 1 or 2 things are cool.
Right.
Even if it's your dream job, there are going to be some mucky things you don't like to do. Like there's certain things I'm going to tell you something. It's like, oh, shoot. I used to look at people funny, like, how come you didn't send in your invoices? People that I know, it's like, dude, especially if you're paying for me, how come you didn't send in your invoices? And it's like, I could tell you now, it's like, oh, paperwork. I gotta submit invoices and they're coming, y'all. But you know what I mean? So that's just a little clerical thing.
Right.
That I need to do, so. But that's a good thing because you're getting your money. But
exactly. You can see the pot at the end of the rainbow.
Even if it's something, I still have to go in and say, oh yeah, let me send this. Boop, boop, boop. So yeah, you should like what you're doing, and you should like your boyfriend. You should like your husband. You should like
one would hope so.
You should like your husband. COVID has taught us. You in your house, you're looking around, change it. So.
Yeah, speaking of that, I did put a new floor down in our kitchen. So I did some little things around it. I cleaned my mom's bedroom out. I converted it to a classroom. So there were a lot of things that I did because I was just going stir crazy. I had never had that kind of free time before. I started. DBHG had started in January of last year, but that's when we really launched because I was really able to put in like X number of hours into the business. Because when you're running your own thing, you kind of just, you work the hours that you want to work or need to work. Since you have brought up COVID, I know that unfortunately, along with, the massive number of deaths that we had, 500,000, there were a lot of people that lost their jobs. And when we talk about sales is something where, for a lot of different sales careers, you don't have to have a high level of education.
Right.
And at the other end of the spectrum, you get all these promises that you're going to make all this money. So what happens when a crisis like COVID hits is you have this like huge influx into the sales career. It's not that difficult to get a real estate license. It might be a little bit more difficult to get an insurance license. You're going to have to go through a little bit more red tape. You can't felony related to, find anything financial. So, embezzling of funds or anything like that. But you can become an insurance agent or work in an insurance office with a low level of education and a promise of a very high, 6-figure income. So there are a lot of people that go into different sales professions with that mentality to say, like, I don't have a high level of education. I mean, I have, I'm not bragging, but I actually have 2 master's degrees and I had 11 years of sales experience. So I'm not saying that educated people don't go into sales. I'm just saying that it's attractive to a large group of people. However, once you kind of get out there and hit the pavement and your grind is like, sales is definitely not for everyone. Right. And I think that people, sometimes after they've made an initial investment, they're excited about the career path. They want to go out there and get started. And then when they kind of get in the trenches, they're like, oh, well, I didn't know it was going to be like this. So at that point, once someone has lost a job, they've pivoted into a sales career, found out that it wasn't, this huge pot at the end of the rainbow or pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. What's your suggestion at that point? Because basically at that point, they're back to square one.
Then you know what? Honestly, that's where I was technically. Now, the difference is I had 2 degrees,
Right.
And it had no bearing on what I was doing. You know what I mean? But it's the promise, but then I wasn't so much quote unquote desperate. I was just like, oh, let me see, because I was looking for things that, because I was not in journalism at the time, as far as I was not working for anyone, but I was just looking for flexibility. And I had gotten used to that because I left Blue Cross and was accustomed to not a 9-to-5 anymore and didn't want one. I wanted to be able to have, time freedom, but still be able to make money, because that's really what you want, right? Where you make more money in less time. So it's like, well, I want to make $500 an hour versus $500 a day. An example. So to someone, COVID just knocked us all in one direction or another, whatever your personal situation was. So you have a lot of people that were unemployed, but still wanted to make money, Right. And someone says, you don't make money, you're not a mint, you earn money. So it's like you still wanted to make that money. So it was the desperation of the hustle. Like, okay, I could do this. And if you have a gift for gab and you have, this drive, you can. Right. For me, I was just like, I don't like this. Now put me in a different setting where I'm really excited about the product and, put me on stage and let me do QVC and I'm selling. That's, to me, that's my kind of sales. But I think what happens is when you get to that point, in answer to your question, if you don't like it and you've given it ample time,
right?
Change.
Absolutely. Change is good sometimes.
Just change it up. You got to find it. You got to find your niche. And if that's not it, it ain't going to work. You're not going to be successful. And if you are, you're going to be miserable. And is that really success?
Yeah. How do you define success? I define success as you being passionate about what you do and helping a lot of people along the way. But how do you define success?
Oh, God. I will say this. I will take my definition of success from The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale.
Okay.
Success is doing what you want to do.
Oh.
So success can be that teacher, and this is the example. I'm going to try and get the example. That teacher that loves being a teacher.
Absolutely.
That mother who's a stay-at-home mom who is contributing to society by raising children to add to the moral fiber, of society, in a productive way, because we don't want monsters, moms. But,
that's the most difficult job of all, is being a mother, in my opinion. So kudos to all the stay-at-home moms. They got the toughest job out there. And the teachers are probably in line number 2.
Exactly. Well, both of them are vital, yet severely underpaid, and nobody
absolutely
severely underpaid, because without teachers and mothers and fathers, but I'm talking about as far as success, for the sake of what we're talking about, success is loving what you do, and whatever that is, and doing it, even if you are at the time not quote unquote at the pinnacle or where you should be, but it creates a mindset for that to happen. Because if you love what you love and you love what you're doing, it puts you in this euphoric mindset to welcome more opportunities, because you're in a place of gratitude.
And I think, one thing about doing things that you don't love is you start working because you have to work. And it just it gives you a very negative mindset and outlook on life versus going to work every day because you want to work. So there's a big difference between the two. And I mentioned that because we work with, insurance agents and realtors, and I just want to make sure that they know exactly what their why is for doing what they want to do. Because honestly, a lot of people go into sales because they want to make money. Yeah. But it's like money in and of itself is not the be all and end all. It's a vehicle for you to be able to take care of your family, support yourself, and also for you to be able to enjoy life. But like you said, if you're going to a 9 to 5, because you have to think, really in sales, it's not going to be 9 to 5. It's going to be more like 9 to 7.
Yeah.
You're going to spend more time at work than you are at home. You're going to spend more time at work than you are on your little 2-week vacation that you may get once a year. Because I was in a couple of different sales positions. They didn't care when you went on vacation, as long as you met your quota. So a lot of people in sales, they can't even take a decent vacation because they have no staff to cover their office.
Sure.
They're not. Sometimes they may not meet their quota if they're taking the risk of not meeting their quota if they do go on vacation. And you're going to be stressed out while you're there because you're going to be thinking about the job all the time, and what's going on when you're not there, and somebody's filing a claim, or what if somebody calls and they want to buy a house and you're not there to answer the phone. So it can turn into a vicious cycle, and you start to feel like you're like a rat on a Ferris wheel.
Well, you are.
So making money is not everything. I mean, some people would probably take less money just to have some peace of mind, 1 or 2 week vacation without having to work 10 years first. So money is not the be all and end all. And I once heard someone say, like, no one grows up wanting to become an insurance agent. It just is kind of like this default career for a lot of people. So I think it's important to really find out what you want to do. And what are your suggestions for that? Like, I suggest like shadowing. You said as a journalist, like you had shadowed a few journalists before you got out there and started doing that full time.
Yeah.
So like, what do you suggest for people who are thinking about a sales career, but they're not 100% sure if that's something that they want to do or not?
Well, in COVID, in the age of COVID, and it's still a pandemic or a panini or whatever y'all want to call it, Pandora. You don't necessarily have to do a one-on-one. You can just call people up and say, hey, I'm thinking about, going into sales. Can I do, can I talk to you for a minute? And maybe you can't do coffee, but you can take a moment and have a conversation with them and then send them a coffee card or something, so that you let people, so it shows that you appreciate their time.
Absolutely.
So I would imagine, or I have, just call people up. People like to talk about themselves. And what they do, right? And so there are people that have been successful in these industries and they like it, but they will be honest with you and tell you, like, if you're going into any kind of sales, whether it's real estate or insurance, it's a lot of paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of, at least I had a lot of applications and stuff. It was a lot of paperwork I had to go through just to close the sale so that I could get paid for that premium. So, so you know what I mean? It's a lot of work. So I can honestly tell you, I didn't like that part of the job. Somebody else who's been doing it more than I did it for 6 months, for 60 years or 16 years or whatever, they can give you the ins and outs and say, and let you know, it ain't easy, but it can be worth it. If you have, it takes a certain kind of individual to be in that environment and to do what they do. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's needful. It's definitely not something that we can do without. It's just the right people need to be doing it. So I think asking around, reading, going out there. So, Google is your friend. I don't know why people are afraid of Google, but it's just a natural inclination for me to research anything I have a question about. If somebody doesn't ask me, can't give me the answer, I'm just going to put in the search engine. What does it take to be an insurance agency? What is an insurance agent? What does it take to be a real estate, a realtor? And then you'll see articles where it'll give the pros and the cons. So do your research. It's all kinds of stuff out there. You don't even have to go to the library. Just get on the internet, talk to people. Hey, people, what's it like? You probably know somebody in your family that is in real estate or is in insurance. So ask, research. That's the only way you're going to know, because you've never done it before. So you have no reference point.
Well, hopefully at some point, hopefully all of us have some type of insurance right now. So I always say, start with your own agent. I had a conversation with my agent years before I went to the insurance business. So start with your own agent, start at home first.
Yeah.
And then if someone has sold you a house recently, or you rent an apartment from someone, even leasing agents, they can give you, some of them are real estate licensed, and you don't even know it. So have a conversation with them where they can direct you to who to talk to. So YouTube videos are also really good and helpful. I think, that's helped me quite a bit. And I would say talk to someone that's newer in the business and someone that's seasoned, like you said, who's had a lot of experience. Because one thing that I found is that I wouldn't talk to someone who's not, I guess if they're not happy with their career, I would ask them why. Because you don't just want to hear this flowery, picture painted, and then that's not the reality. So if someone's newer, they know what the current trends are that are going on right now at this moment, where someone who's been in the business 20 or 30 years, they might be a little bit out of touch. But I think it is good to get those perspectives from both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me see if there's anything else. Well, Francine, we've gone way over the half an hour. I don't want to keep you from your dinner time. So,
Oh no, you're fine.
what are some-
I haven't ordered anything yet. So yeah, but we got started later, so I understand, this.
Yep.
Yeah,
So I'll just ask a few questions. We won't get through all the questions today, but
Yeah.
you returned to school as an adult. I did too, to become a teacher and become certified. I returned to school as an adult. Tell us what motivated you to go back to school to become a journalist after being in a couple of other careers earlier, when you were a little bit younger.
One of my managers, who was a white man, and I just say it like that because it was surprising coming from him. I was doing my yearly review, merit review, and he basically asked me what it is what was I planning to do with my life. And I was just kind of dumbfounded, first of all, that he asked me that. And he just said, you have a lot of potential that you're not living up to. And he literally said, you're here, but your potential is here. So, and he says, your son's going to graduate. So what are you going to do? And I started at Oakland Community College trying to, getting my associates. So by the time I had 60 credits behind me, so I needed like 60 more to get my bachelor's degree. So thankfully, Wayne State took all of my credits and I got 60, whatever the amount is to the 120. And that just put fire under me. And it was like, I was facilitating classes, getting up front. He gave me a lot of opportunities to speak and just, really get comfortable. Well, I was always comfortable because I loved speech in school. But just the opportunity corporate wise. And because I used to plan like large corporate events for our marketing department. And so I was able to have a built-in audience. So I just started, I went back to school. I was going to school on my lunch. I was getting up early and, at 3:00 in the morning, going to Channel 7, working from 3 to 7, coming home, getting my son ready, taking him to school, going to work, working on my lunch, and working after school. Or after work. So because I had declared journalism in 1983 or 85 or whatever, 1985, or not 85, 2000 or something like that. I just went on and just declared that major, let that be my major, because it was like, hey, that's what I wanted to do, So that was it. I just went back because it was like, he was right. What am I going to do with my life? And, hopefully I'm living up to my potential. At least I'm trying to. But
did you, I'm sure when you got that response from your manager at the time, that was probably like a slap in the face. Had you just gotten a little bit too comfortable in what you were doing, even though you probably knew that wasn't the ideal job for you, but you're like, hey, my bills are being paid, I'm living a good life. My son's about to graduate. You're probably thinking about retirement down the road and benefits. What was your initial reaction when you got that response?
It was actually in line with what I've been thinking, because at the time I didn't see anybody that looked like me in the higher level positions. I didn't see, oh God, I'm going to say it, but I didn't see a lot of attractive Black women in high level positions, VP positions at the time. And so I was bored. I had been bored. You know what I mean? So I guess it was just time. And it really, like God can use the donkey. And I think God used him to speak to me like, okay, it's time to stop being comfortable. So I just did that. And even when I had to take a couple classes on my lunch, They were like, well, so what I ended up doing is using like personal time and said, okay, well, I'm going to go to lunch, but I'm going to tack on an hour of personal time so that I can drive, because I worked in Southfield. So I drove to Wayne State, came back to 11 Mile and Civic Center Drive on 2 days a week. It was just, at that point, it was like, I'm ready to go. You know, there was nothing more for me other than, because I made good money, okay? But it was just like, I'm bored. I was bored in the meeting, so I was always asking a lot of questions. It was just like, just so I could.
Was that his way of saying, like, you had hit a glass ceiling pretty much, like you were not going to, you know?
I think it was just me overall. It was probably, he was speaking of me bigger than Blue Cross. I don't think it was, at least I took it that way. Do you know what I mean? I think it was just whatever I was supposed to be doing. It could have been Blue Cross, but I took it to mean just overall, I was not living up to my potential. Whether it was Blue Cross or outside, he was speaking more of, you're comfortable, whether you're going to stay here or not. And that was not even he didn't even know
that you were thinking about something else. Yeah.
He didn't know I had declared journalism and I was a great writer, and, you know, because I was doing what I was doing. But, you know, even when I tried to, after I got my bachelor's, after I interviewed with certain positions and they still were trying to hold me back, you know, and it was like, okay, was it, and some would attribute it to, well, if the person interviewed you, were they jealous? Yeah, you know, so it was just certain little things and just microaggressions that really just made me say, it's time to go.
Right.
You know, it was just time to go.
Yeah, there's a book out now called Only One, I think, and it's about a African-American woman who was able to move up the ranks in corporate America. Yeah. And she talks about how poorly, you know, she was treated and may still be treated. I don't know if she's still doing that, but at boardrooms, you know, being ignored, you're the only African-American in the entire boardroom. And so people, you know, it's just automatic discreditation and you constantly having to prove yourself. And it's like, wait a minute, I thought I already had the job. Like, why? And then she said that there were times where she would be undercut by someone that reported to her. And it's just like the level of disrespect is just, and I'm like, I have to read this book, but it's just unbelievable. Like, why put yourself through that? And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you can have the 6 figures. I have to find another way to go through it, because I'm not just going to be in a, you know, a corporate position to be your little puppet, to sit up here and be humiliated every day. To me, it's just not worth it.
I remember when I interviewed for a job, and it was going to be a great job, Blue Cross, and I was going to be doing a lot of sales related marketing, you know, handling all the advertising space at all the sports venues, you know, now Little Caesars Arena, Joe Louis, Coba, anywhere you can think of, Pine Knot, whatever.
Right.
And they never contacted me to let me know I still remember this, that I did not get the job. So I had to call HR and say, hey, did they decide? Because in the interview, I asked her questions.
Right.
Had previously held the job, so I was able to ask her questions. You know, we go back to, like we're talking about, ask people questions about their job so you know if this is something you want to do. Because an interview is a two-way street.
Absolutely.
And I asked her different questions about the job because she knew firsthand. You know, she had moved up, and so I was not taking her job. I was going to fill her former position. She never got back with HR to let them know if they were going to hire me. And so the HR representative is looking through, she's trying to find paperwork and whatnot. And she said, oh yeah, you didn't get the job because you didn't know a specific term, the meaning of a specific term. I said she probably didn't either when she started. But that's cool. So it was that, like, I was disqualified because I didn't know a term.
Right.
So
it's like any old excuse.
Any excuse.
And then they have to, if they receive any money from the federal government, they have to interview a certain number of minorities because of equal opportunity rights.
Yeah.
They have to have a certain amount. If they receive funds from the government, they have to have a certain number of minorities working there. So even the African American women who somehow slip through the cracks, and they might even make it to the C-suite.
Yeah.
Just recently, in the last 5 years, we've seen, the CEO of Starbucks is now was African American. The CEO of a couple of other Fortune 100 or 500 companies is African American. But that was not always the case. I think Walmart now has one.
Yeah, Rosalind.
By the way, both of those institutions have historic reputations for being extremely racist. So it would only make sense that their CEO is now African American.
Yeah.
So
and hopefully they're given an opportunity to not be figureheads.
Well, and you took the words right out of my mouth. Usually for PR reasons, they bring these African American or minorities in to say that they then become the puppet child or poster child to say, hey, we're not racist, we believe in diversity. And then that you don't see them after 2 or 3 years. And there's all this fanfare about how they just hired this African American minority in this position. And then poof, 2 or 3 years later, they go out like mice. Like you don't even hear about them leaving, their departure. You don't hear anything about where they go after that. And it's like, well, what happened to this person? And it's like, oh, they just don't work here anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And it's moving on while you're in the drive-through line to get your Starbucks drink.
A lot of it does. And we saw that with Black Lives Matter, where a lot of companies wanted to be on the other side of history. So they were doing a lot of performative stuff. Nothing that was really going to enact change, like you said, 2-3 years later. So it's like, hopefully these women CEOs, because a lot of times what also happens, and I've seen it, we are delegated to clean up mess,
absolutely
mess. So and no disrespect, my hat's off to any Black man or woman that is in that space. But
any minority, period. I don't care who it is.
Yeah. I mean, we're now talking about, heck, Google did the same thing with the Black woman. You know what I mean? But Google has had some history as well. So, it's I just saw a lot, and I just said, I get it, Mr. Manager that saw my potential. It's not here. It's not here. I have a better chance of building my own, and controlling my narrative for myself. I have a better chance of building my own empire. I'm watching young chicks now doing the dang on thing, and they're inspiring my old butt. You know what I mean? So to build my own, whatever it is, you know what I mean? So you just have a better chance, and you have better peace. You have better health, I can't remember her name, but it was a woman who committed suicide. She was one of the first Black women to be in one of those particular positions. And I can't think of her name right now, but it's like, at this point, I need peace.
She committed suicide because, and I remember the story.
You remember, right?
That magazine.
Yes.
But she committed suicide because they went back and they looked at her qualifications, and she said she had a degree that she had never earned. However, so she was, grossly embarrassed. However, how did she get hired in the first place? I mean, most of the jobs that I applied to, especially in the field of education, that's the first thing they ask for is your transcript. So I said, I felt like the lady got set up because I was like, how did she even get hired? It's like,
but how many people are hired that aren't qualified?
Absolutely. I mean, how the Old Boys Network works. I mean, we're not going to break down race relations tonight, but the Old Boys Network hires their own that are sometimes grossly underqualified or don't have all the qualifications. But when it comes to us, it's like, oh, you just got in because of affirmative action.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have more education than most of the people in this building. I'm like, you can't, everything is not based on affirmative action,
Yeah.
So, what your point about having more peace of mind and a better lifestyle and not just looking at the money, because honestly, these women that were just placed in these positions, you don't really know what they sacrificed to get there. They could have sacrificed their personal life. They might have said, I don't have time to have a family. I'm going to be single forever. But you have this, cushy corporate position, but it's like at what expense, so you're making 6 figures a year, $500,000 a year, but what's not in your life? So I think, people have to see the other side of things. When we see highly successful people, they sacrifice something. So you just kind of have to say, are you willing to pay that price? And the other thing I wanted to say was, when we were talking about, when you're saying, I don't want this kind of burden of, trying to constantly go to work every day, prove yourself, be humiliated by people that report to you, et cetera, be constantly questioned about what your qualifications are, how you got here, who you slept with to get here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, I'll just do my own thing. And that's reason number 2 that a lot of people go into sales. That was my why, because I was fed up. I started in the nonprofit sector. And I was extremely micromanaged, and I'm like, look, I'm here. I'm one of the last employees to leave at night. I'm leaving with the janitors. Like, why are you? I'm one of the last people that should be getting micromanaged.
And that micromanagement.
I just said, if I'm going to work this hard for somebody else, make entry level salary, I might as well work this hard for myself. And that's how I actually got interested in sales. So it is an avenue if you don't want to take that corporate America route. And you honestly can do very well in sales without having to, wait to get promoted 2 or 3 times. You can actually get close to making 6 figures within your first 5 years. There's one lady who's blowing up YouTube right now. She made $200,000 as a realtor in her first year in Texas. So it can be done. But just know, whether you're in corporate America, you have your own business, you go into the public sector, you're going to have to work your behind off to be successful. It doesn't matter what avenue you take. So you just kind of have to weigh the pros and cons and see, what sacrifices you really want to make. We have to look at our age to see how much time, how many actual productive years we have left, and then make some strategic moves from there. Because I know when I went back to school to earn my teaching certificate, my mom was like, what are you going back to school for? Like, you're over 40. So, and, some people, they have these milestones, like you should have accomplished this by this age. You should be married by this age. Society puts all of these labels on you. And I was like, well, I didn't know that there was a rule that you couldn't go back to school.
Society does it with women more so, though. I really believe society has this expectation for women to accomplish certain things by a certain age and a certain time, but it still goes back to the quote, do what you love and you never have to work. That's probably true. We went back to school, and it's like, listen, I loved I loved reporting, but it's like, I still had to set it up because I had a camera and a tripod. I still had to, it was like kind of a backpack thing, all going all around Lansing, but it was work. And I still had to figure out how to do reel to reel taping and editing. That was work, So you go work your butt off, but you working it off doing something that you love.
Right.
So yeah, anybody is watching it, go back to school. You're gonna get old anyway. You know what I mean? Whatever it is a person wants to do, it is never too late. It's only too late in your head.
Right.
Whatever it is, it's too late. Well, it's gonna be too late anyway. You're gonna spend the time. You're going to keep living anyway. So why not do it? Whatever it is, whether it's going back to school, start a business, whatever it is, people think, well, shoot, I should have done that at 30, 40, 50, 60. Who was Colonel Sanders? I mean, he didn't perfect the chicken recipe until he was like in his 60s,
Right.
He used to be real good. So I get that. We get that a lot where people like, what you gonna do? Why when I left Blue Cross, it's like, so what you gonna do after this?
Right.
You retire. I said, I'm not redoing tired. I'm gonna do what I want to do. It was, and this was after being there 20 something years. What you gonna do? I said, whatever I want to do.
Exactly.
I know I can't stay here.
Right. It was a dead end job. You weren't going to go anywhere anyway. I mean, that was it for you. So you had nowhere else to move up. You were bored. You wanted something different. So and that's the thing I think with our parents' generation and our generation, it's like, traditionally that the way that you moved up in society was a lot of times you needed a professional degree. So you had to become a doctor or a lawyer. But there's so many other ways to make that still six figures now. Like I had read in a book that there was a doctor, he resigned, he gave up his practice and he became a chef. And people thought he was crazy. But there's celebrity chefs out there, they're making six figures. You can write a cookbook, sell it on Amazon. So it's like, I feel like there's more avenues in that traditional line of thinking where, if you're going to be successful, you need a MD behind your name or attorney JD behind your name. And hey, I know a whole bunch of broke attorneys. Okay. So the average income or salary for a lot of attorneys in Michigan was like, in the 40s or 50,000s. I'm making more than you are as a teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, so as somebody, but just because somebody has an advanced degree, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're making all this money, like you said, but if they're doing something that they really love and they're benefiting society, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And there's money to be made, honestly. You just, again, putting yourself in a mindset, a wealthy mindset, and not just by cliche. There is money to be made, but you have to be in a headspace, renewing your mind, feeding your mind, limiting your circle, who's in your ear. If it's somebody, for me, when you talked about circling back to motivational coach, it's like, I don't know, maybe that does sound like something, because I know for me, I benefit from somebody. I benefit from having a trainer. I benefit from having somebody, okay, this is what you need to do, because I show up. It gives me that built-in accountability. I like being held accountable. And if I have to pay somebody to do that, then I'll do it because it's something I really want to do or really want to get done. Just when it came to losing weight or working out and building muscle or whatever, so you can start out, he could start out as a chef, and then decide, and it's all about marketing. It's all about positioning, and social media enables us to do anything and be anything we want to do, want to be.
Right.
Build your following, and then you can talk about cooking and talk about inspire others who ready to take a leap and don't want to be a lawyer anymore. They want to walk dogs. They want to bake cakes. They want to, I don't know, own a flower shop.
Right. I was just listening to 950 AM, I think it was at or NPR over the weekend. And they said there's such a thing as medical burnout, especially because of this coronavirus. You have a lot of doctors and nurses and medical professionals who are like, I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, just like you get teacher burnout, they're like, I've committed 15 to 20 years. I'm tired.
Yeah.
There's burnout happens. And I mean, some people are, they went into medicine because they thought they were going to make all of this money. And even if they are making the six figures, are you really enjoying the fruit of your labor? I mean, because what did you sacrifice to be a doctor? You probably sacrificed spending time with your family. If you have a family, you might not have a family. They sacrifice a whole lot.
Yeah.
And then they feel like I'm on the front lines. I'm sitting up here giving, putting my own life and health at risk to try to save somebody else's. So reality actually does set in, like,
yes.
Do I really want to do this until I retire? And I think, those days of our parents' generation where people feel like I have to work to 30 years and I'm going to get my gold watch when I retire, those days just don't exist anymore.
Yeah. I remember because I was like, Mom, because she got me into Blue Cross. She was like, this is how you're going to pay for school. That's how I started at Blue Cross because they had tuition reimbursement.
Right.
But I said, I quit. I had put in like my notice and then because they were doing buyouts and stuff like that. And she says, okay. But I was so scared to let her know, traditional parent.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, Corona has shown us they probably thought they were going to be doctors and whatever from now on. But this has exposed so much, where it's like I said in the beginning, be like babies. I don't want to do that anymore. You know what I'm saying? Don't do it. Don't do it no more.
Well, my takeaway that I got from you today, Francyne, was like, life is too short. Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm walking away with.
And you're going to find people and surround yourself by people that support that. Don't get around naysayers and people that are going to make you doubt yourself. That's also important. So that's my 2 cents on that. It's like surround yourself with people who support you reinventing yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, pivoting and reinventing yourself. Those are the 2 buzzwords for this year and last year.
Yes.
So I heard that, and I heard if you're not happy, get a new boyfriend and a new job, a new career.
You better.
I heard both those things.
Wait a minute, you got a friend? You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, ask your own boyfriend. Do you have a friend or somebody? It's like, listen, we don't have to suffer through bad relationships. Bad dates. Listen, this is not going to work.
Absolutely.
Do you have a friend? I have one, that might be better suited. You are entitled to, especially I want to encourage Black women to speak up and ask for what they want and demand.
Absolutely.
Don't settle. It's like, oh, but he seemed nice, but do you guys have chemistry? Are you compatible? Do you really like him? Do you get butterflies? If you don't, you ain't gotta like somebody because they nice.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but I mean, another
time, getting what you want, asking for what you want at the table, the negotiation table is important too, because like you said, with an interview, it's a two-way street. They're interviewing you, but you're interviewing them too. You want to see if this is going to be a good fit. You don't have to take the first job that comes along. You don't have to take the first guy that comes along. At least go out there and shop around a little bit, and then, give yourself 2 weeks to accept a job. Go out there and shop around and see if there's something else that might be a better fit. So I think a lot of times we're just settling for the first thing that comes along.
Because we're tired.
Getting comfortable. And that's not necessarily good.
No, it's not. No, I can tell you it's not. What would I do differently? Honestly, I would not have stayed, I can say this. I'm old enough now to say, well, what would you have done differently, Francyne? I would not have stayed as long as I did at Blue Cross.
Yeah.
Truthfully and honestly, am I going to set it up do I have a regret? No, because it doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't serve anything to be regretful.
Right.
I would have left sooner. But when it was time and when I heard in my ear, go, And then when they were offering people to go, and I heard, if you don't go now, you won't leave until it'll be another 20 years. And when I, was a contractor for GM, and I saw people that were because Blue Cross is in the building, and I'm like, I would run into people and they were still in the same positions, and and I was like, ooh, that could have been me. No judgment, because everybody has their own motivators and whatever they got going on. That's not me. It wasn't going to be me either that was still there. So, but my only decision, if I had known now what I know then, I would have left probably 10 years in. But but that's that. It's like, it is what it is. What do I take from that going forward? Don't stay anywhere too long.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, like, you were trying to honor your mom, because I was in a career longer than I wanted to be, out of respect and honor for your own mother. Because like you said, your mother's the one that got you a job. So for you to go and tell her, hey, I quit, you said yourself you were terrified. And then on the flip side of that, I'm sure she was like, well, what are you going to do now? And you're like, oh, I don't know. So she was like, what's wrong with you?
It was in my head though. She was like, okay, if that's what you want to do. It was no pushback. It was all in my head. But maybe 10 years ago, she might have felt differently. Do you know what I mean? Because, but I think it was just, it's like, I would not have honored my mama, and I would have gone sooner, and just dealt with the fact that she would have eventually loved me anyway, because she wasn't going to not love me. That's still, so it's like, I would have gone sooner, and I would have just dealt with her wrath, her in my head.
Yeah.
So what's the lesson now that I can take from that? Don't stay nowhere too long. If it's time to go, it's time to go, and you'll figure it out. Because this is a universe of abundance. If you reach in, you know what I mean? If you tap into it, anything is possible. And there's somebody waiting to give you an opportunity, whether it's a contact or whatever. I just believe that. I refuse to not have faith that everything works out the way it's supposed to. Whether you go into sales and you make it in sales, and you choose to stay there because it's like, hey, I got a knack for this, or you don't like it, after a couple of years and really giving it your all, then you can do something else. You can go from being an insurance agent to a realtor or something similar in that line. It's all possible. Anything is possible. And that's
the other thing about sales. I apologize. That's the other thing about sales, a sales career. Whether you stay in the same industry or you go to another one, you're going to have to talk to people. So, you meet some people, salespeople, or you meet some ministers who say, I don't like people. Well, you're in the wrong profession. It's a people business. I mean, you make money off of, you have to, sometimes you have to purchase leads, but whatever you're doing, you're going to have to constantly be in front of people. So however you get to those avenues, you're going to be in front of people all the time. So it's like, if you don't even like people, then like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, that must be a social awkwardness.
Yeah, even if you're introverted, you still have to like people.
Yeah, that I never meet a stranger. I have, I've traveled by myself, met people, and ended up, now I wouldn't do it because it can be a little dangerous now, but you have to, people who are introverted, yes, they can tap in to that, but it's like, it must be a social awkwardness if you don't like people or don't like interacting with people. Then you probably should do something that works with data. You know what I mean?
Sales is probably not for you. Not unless you're going to be selling over the phone with a script or something, but I don't know.
I mean, there's hope. Hopefully you, anyone that's watching and the replay or whatnot, it's always hope. As India Ari would say, there's hope. And I just choose to, hold on to that and just stay with my faith. So when you say, motivation, it's like I can't imagine living or thinking another way. So it comes quite naturally for me to motivate somebody else, because I don't exist to tear you down.
Absolutely.
I choose to live to build you up. Whoever is in my space, you will never, ever hear anybody say about me that I tear you down. I talk about, I'm not a backbiter. I'm not someone that wakes up seeking to make somebody feel like crap or whatever. That's just not me. That is not who I was created to be.
Right. Yeah, we talked about those the people with the crab in the barrel mentality, and actually, negativity breeds negativity. So I'm like you, I don't really want to be around those negative people. And sooner or later, if someone that's negative comes into your circle, they usually don't stay very long, because they want to feed off of that negative energy. If they don't get any from you, then they'll find somebody else to get it from. Because I don't have time to feed into that foolishness. I'm like, I work full time and I'm running a business. I don't have time, or slash nonprofit. So thank you so much, Francyne. Is there any last remark that you want to leave? I really appreciate. I know it's like every time we talk, we both seem to talk a lot. So we'll have to catch up sometime over coffee. But it was great having you as my first guest on the DBHG Live podcast. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and also for helping me with our first debut live show. And I also got to get some hair and makeup tips from you. So I'm gonna be waiting on that show to come out as well. I'm so excited about
I'm excited because
new ventures you got going on.
So just stay focused, stay positive, and that's mainly it. Stay focused, stay positive, and be fearless. Even if it's just a little bit of fearlessness every day, do something fearless every day. If it's making a call to that person that you'd like to know, how did they do something? I watch a lot of people silently, and I'm just like, oh, that's how they did that. Or, that's how I draw my inspiration. But I'm excited, even after having a conversation with you, moving into a different phase, or, what's in a name? Well, Francyne Walker. So we are segueing from, the Francyne, from Life and Style with Francyne to the Francyne Walker Show, and still all at the same time. I never even talked about it, but it was good. Managing social media platforms for women-owned businesses, specifically women that don't even want to be bothered with Instagram, Twitter. Just just stay positive and stay focused and stay in and grow fearlessness. Get even more fearless, and surround yourself with people who are going to support you in your process of becoming what you've always been meant to be.
Yes. And I think, the process of becoming, like metamorphosis with a butterfly, that's one of my favorite symbols. But I was going to say too, I remember from a phone conversation that we had last week, or our our drive podcast run through, you had said, no, I think it was a phone call. It was a phone call. You had said, I don't care what people say about me. And I love that, because so many people are they put themselves in cages or boxes, or, behind bars, because they're so afraid of, if I do this, what is this person going to think about this? And it's like, well, at the end of the day, it's your life, So, we talked about our mothers and how they felt. And I know when I went into insurance, my mom was like, well, why do you want to sell insurance? She was like saying she was thinking about the redlining and saying, a lot of you might not get a lot of customers because a lot of people might not buy insurance from you. And I was able to show her, by the end of my career, I'm still licensed, so who knows what'll happen with that. But that, I was able to cross color barriers and a lot of people that were, African American, yes, they do buy insurance. So
Yeah.
So I was able
Absolutely.
to overcome these obstacles. And I think at the end of the day, your family members who can be some of our worst critics, they can turn out to be some of your biggest supporters, because it's like, if you find success in whatever you're doing, your family is going to eventually come and back you up. The only reason why they don't at the beginning is because, like you said before, with corporate America, they don't see a lot of us doing these things. So that they're automatically thinking the negative. Well, how are you going to be successful at this? Like,
And
nobody else
it's
is doing this, but you can prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And I would just say, if you put it in your heart, if that seed is in your heart, then go for it.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to lose. It start on a part-time basis until you can replace your income, but at least get started and not, bury your dreams or what you really want to do in life at the expense of what other people say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Next time we'll have to add chat, and hopefully we'll get some calls in to the next call. I definitely want you to come back, because we were actually going to spend more time talking about marketing and branding. So hopefully we'll do that the next time around. But it was great having you on the show, Francyne. I know I went way over on my time.
No,
hopefully we'll get a lot of replays on this, and good comments moving forward in the chats and all that. So
yeah,
I look forward to partnering with you moving forward. And if there's nothing else, I think that's going to be a wrap for the show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Anytime, Congratulations on your inaugural show, inaugural podcast. And here's to many more. It's a great journey. You'll have a lot of fun with it. And anytime, I know we got kind of started and, but that's what happens. We go through the rough part and then we get it. Right. So it's like, I don't know, because I'm not technical either. So I was like, I can understand, but congratulations, you got through it. It's over.
Yes, exactly. And like those are the journalism degrees that we got, 10 plus years ago, they're basically antiquated now anyway. So you're constantly having to refresh yourself on, on the industry.
Yes.
And technology is forever changing and evolving.
Yes.
So.
And you got to change with it. That's another thing. Be flexible and be adaptable and be teachable.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So thank you so much. I will look forward to watching the replay and, talking again about marketing and branding. That is probably one of my favorite subjects to talk about. And I look forward to coming back. So anytime, let me know.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Francyne. Join us tomorrow once again for our live podcast. Tomorrow we will have Kim Lee Naylor on. Thanks everybody for spending time with us this evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Detroit Business Hub Group Director Nancy O'Neill works with her team of experts. Listen to conversations with business professionals to discover the latest business innovations, insights, and trends. Find out what's hot and what's not in today's business market.